Hello everyone, I'm EV2Easy, and today we're doing something different from Monster Madness stuff. Today, we're ranking all 6 buddies in South Park: The Stick of Truth. I finally came back to this game after a while, and since I don't think anyone's made a video going in depth about this, I decided to just do it myself. So, I ran through day 3 of the game 6 times exclusively using one buddy each time on hardcore difficulty as a fighter. I started from the abortion clinic quest all the way to beating the game or being forced to switch buddies in the final fight, whichever came first. During these runs, I noted where they all excelled or fell flat and compiled everything to get where we are now. We're using a D to K tier list and we'll start with the worst buddies all the way to the best. I hope you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, and now let's get started. Jimmy is the bard of the group, initially allied with Kyle and the elves. He specializes in buffing the party and debuffing the enemy with songs, but I often felt like he didn't have as much as an impact as other buddies did, and I often felt lost on his turns. His quick action, Power Chord, is pretty inoffensive and can be nice at times. He gives the new kid and himself 6 PP. I felt like with how quick combat can go in this game, this wasn't an amazing ability, and I'd rather spend the bonus action using a speed potion, which lets you act twice in the same turn, or just use a normal PP potion. Song of Buffness is his first ability. This ability buffs both the new kid and Jimmy's ability damage and lowers enemy ability damage for 4 turns. I never really found this amazing because the fighter's Horn of Irritation already does this while doing damage, enraging enemies, and decreasing enemy defense. This ability is outclassed really easily and it's just not really good. Lullaby is his second ability and is where Jimmy peaks. This ability puts every enemy on the field to sleep for a few rounds and skips their turn until they wake up. This is actually really valuable as getting a round to set up, recover, or just get free damage is highly sought after. It often immediately decides most fights, so it's honestly a really good ability. It doesn't work on bosses though, so it really sucks that Jimmy loses his best tool on some of the hardest fights. Brown Note is honestly a pretty bad third ability. It costs 18 PP, which makes it the most expensive third ability in the game. It hits every enemy on the field, inflicts defense down, and makes them crap their pants. Unfortunately, it's just not very good. The defense down can be nice, but you come across so many ways to basically always have multiple stacks of strength or ability up that it's often not even necessary to have defense down. Plus, being so expensive makes Jimmy a total PP hog. You need to dump lots of PP potions into him to be viable, and since bosses are immune to sleep, spamming Brown Note is the best Jimmy can do against bosses. So honestly, in my opinion, he's the worst party member to bring into boss fights. Fighter already has a way to do that, and it only costs 4 PP when maxed out. HP wise, Jimmy isn't the tankiest guy out there. He does take a lot of damage, and I often found myself dumping my bonus actions just keeping him up with potions. Overall, I didn't find much of a use for him. Lullaby is all he really has going for him. I imagine if he played as a mage or another class, he could synergize really well with them, but honestly, Jimmy's viability is just outshined by Horn of Irritation and other party members, so I give him D tier. Princess Kenny is the archer of the group and initially allied with the humans of Koopa Keep. She specializes in applying status effects and wide-hitting moves. I honestly saw her as a budget Kyle with way more clunkiness attached. Her quick action, Charm, simply applies attack down to one enemy. It can be good, especially early game, to get an edge, but the animation is so long, and at the point I was in, I just didn't need attack down, so I never found myself using it. Royal Kiss is Kenny's starting ability, and it's decently solid. It targets one enemy, inflicts Gross Out, and deals a good amount of damage. Gross Out isn't the best status effect ever, but it can be pretty good. Because Royal Kiss deals gross damage, enemies are actually completely immune to this attack, and it deals no damage. Furry Friends is her second ability and an amazing ability for crowd control and confirming kills. She summons a wave of rats that hit every enemy on the field for good damage. I found it really good for softening enemies at the start of a fight or using at the end of a fight to clean up. It's also really good at hitting zombies and forcing them out of combat to prevent them reviving. It is absolutely outclassed by several other abilities later on, but for early game, it can hold its own. Unicorn Stampede is her third ability and it's just okay. It doesn't have the same amazing AoE Furry Friends does because it attacks in a straight line. On hit, it applies 2 stacks of bleed. I didn't find it as great as Furry Friends in normal encounters, but it's definitely good during bosses, especially in the later half where most enemies are immune to Gross Out. Bleed is a very broken status effect, so spamming this ability to get max stacks can be a legit strategy. Kenny also has several mechanics attached to her. One I really don't like is her rebirth. When Kenny dies, she automatically revives in 2 rounds. I didn't like this as I prefer my buddy to have an 100% uptime. This is so I can maximize damage, healing, and split damage evenly. Kenny isn't very tanky, so there's definitely a few situations where she goes down and you have to endure every attack and keep up with healing until she's back. This game is pretty forgiving with revives, as using a revive immediately still lets your buddy have a turn, so rebirth is completely inferior to that. I imagine it'd be better early game where revives are hard to come by. Second is her consequences for failing her abilities. Normally characters just do less damage or don't get status effects, but Kenny's are far more severe. Royal Kiss inflicts Gross Out on herself, which makes you waste a bonus action to cure her. while the other two just straight up kill her and start the rebirth timer. Her bow is pretty good for ranged attacks and can shred shields, but it does no damage against armor, so it's not very good. Overall, I found Kenny to just be okay. She isn't great, but isn't bad. I imagine she excels early game, but compared to late game buddies, she falls completely flat. B tier. Butters Stotch. Butters is the noble paladin, allied with Kuba Keep and also dislikes elves. He specializes in being nice, having good damage, and possibly a top 5 buddy ability. Butters is the only other character in the game with a passive, which is Born Victim, and it's the worst passive in the game. This passive is active the entire game and makes him twice as likely to be targeted by enemies. This means Butters is constantly going to be overwhelmed with damage, status effects, and debuffs. This makes him a total hog on healing potions, as he's heavily reliant on being constantly fed potions to stay up during fights. His quick action is Healing Touch. He simply heals the new kid for 15% of his HP. I honestly didn't find it very useful, and I think it's pretty overhyped. Butters is always taking so much damage that the new kid doesn't really get hit that much in comparison, and if he does, one small healing potion is usually all he needs. It's probably better in the early game where resources are rare, but in the late game, 15% of new kid's HP is not very much at all. Hammer of Justice is his first ability, and it's pretty good. He throws his hammer at an enemy which deals a large amount of damage, and it even works very well against armor. This ability is where most of Butters' damage output comes from, so for what it is, it's very solid. Hammer of Storms is his second ability, which is an amazing crowd control ability. He smites all enemies in one column with high shock damage. It deals a lot of damage, so much so it can often one-shot non-boss enemies. It's very PP intensive though, but it's very good at forcing enemies out of combat or just simply cleaning up. Professor Chaos is his third ability and has the chance to be a top 3 buddy skill. When you use it, Butters transforms into Professor Chaos and has you spin a wheel to decide what he does to enemies. There's 5 possible moves he can do, and the usefulness of each is not split very well. We'll start from what I think is the worst and work our way up to the best. The first is Life Drain, which has him drain every enemy for a small amount of damage and heal himself and the new kid. This is the move you never want. Again, Butters needs the healing, which you already provide from healing potions. You're not going to be in a situation where you're down on your luck and fishing for this heal to save a fight. The much more optimal solution is to just have you heal each other. The next is Chaos Storm, which has him target 5 random enemies and hit them with lightning. The bolts deal good damage, but the random nature is what kills it. You'd much rather want the consistency of hitting every enemy at once. Speaking of, the next one is Chaos Blast, which does exactly that. It hits every enemy on the field for good damage. Hammer of Chaos has to slam every enemy on the field for good damage and inflict stun to every enemy. This is very good in basic encounters and often very easily lets you run through them. Bosses can't be stunned, but if a boss happens to summon minions that count as basic enemies, this can take all that extra damage and pressure off you by stunning them. Finally, Chaos Cloak is what makes this a potential top 3 buddy ability. This gives you a 9-hit shield that stacks with any shield you had before. You basically have God mode for 9 entire hits. You can still be affected by status effects like Gross Out, so you still need a block, but practicality wise, this is the best the ability can give you. If you were able to always get Chaos Cloak, Butters would be one of the best buddies in the game, but since it's a 1 in 5 chance, Butters just doesn't have the consistency. Butters' hammer is just okay. It does good damage, but a nice thing about it is holy damage, which ticks after the initial hit. This means if the hammer kills an enemy, the holy damage will tick and then make the enemy flee from the fight. Overall, Butters is very good, but definitely nowhere near as good as other buddies. His heavy reliance on abilities for damage, utility, and constant damage he's always taking makes him a huge resource dump. He constantly needs PP and HP potions, but he's pretty fun to use, and getting Chaos Cloak during a boss fight is an amazing feeling. A tier. Stan Marshwalker. Stan Marshwalker is the fighter of the group, allied with Kyle and the elves. He excels in crowd control, armor shredding, and being really flashy. He's very solid, fun to use, and a very good boss killer. His quick action is March for Death, which applies defense down to 1 enemy for 1 turn. It's pretty good when you have nothing better to do, but there's not much to say there. His first ability, Discus of Might, has its niche uses. He throws a disc that ricochets to multiple enemies and deals okay damage. It deals no damage when used against armored enemies, but it can be good poke against unarmored enemies. The only reason I ever found myself using it was to hit zombies and force them out of combat or to wear down shields. Besides that, there's no reason to use it. Whirlwind Slash is an okay ability. It hits a wide number of enemies and inflicts 2 stacks of bleed on the initial target. It does nothing against armored enemies, but what it's good for is forcing enemies out of combat and destroying armor. As I said before, applying bleed is very good, but for the PP cost, there's not a lot of situations for it, especially since Stan can already force people out of combat for much less PP. It's much more consistent than the disc for breaking shields, and applying bleed is always nice. Way of the Sword is his third ability and his stand staple. It's one of the coolest third abilities in the game, and it's very, very good. He slashes the enemy 7 times, applying burning and destroying a total of 35% of the enemy's armor over the whole attack. That last part is the absolute best part of the ability. If you combine this with the new kid's armor destroying abilities, you can very quickly destroy all of a boss's armor and make any boss very squishy. The only drawback is the PP cost. It costs 15 PP, but Stan has the lowest PP of anybody in the game. Since the optimal strategy is to spam this, he is an absolute hog of PP potions. It is worth it for what you get, but you will need to constantly restock. Stan has the highest HP of anybody in the game, so he can very much tank multiple rounds of combat like the new kid, so he's much less reliant on health potions and can be more combat oriented with speed potions. His sword is also very unique as it has the wide hit effect, attacking any enemy that's in the same column. This is primarily what makes him so good at crowd control, as he can very easily clear most fights and force people out of combat without any input. Overall, Stan is an amazing buddy if played right and can carry most basic fights while holding his own very well in bosses. A tier. Cartman is a leader of Koopa Keep, hater of elves, and the greatest ass magician in Colorado. He excels in applying burn, wide AoE magic skills, and extreme gluttony. For his quick action, he throws a magic missile that he grabs from a box. This deals minor damage but applies gross out. This does mean, however, he can practically not have a quick action in some fights due to many enemies being immune to gross out. Cartman is very unique as he has 2 unlisted passives. His first is Gluttony, and it's the best passive in the game. Every time he uses a potion, he uses it twice. This means 1 small potion can almost fully recover him, and 1 small PP potion can almost fully recover his PP. This does not apply when giving a potion to the new kid, but it makes him, ironically, much less resource hungry than he could be. His second is Power Surge. If you get a perfect hit with all 5 hits using his staff, he recovers 5 PP. This is pretty useless as 1 small PP potion recovers 20 PP, so there's no reason to sacrifice a turn to recover 5 PP. His first ability is Flame Strike. He targets one row and uses a makeshift flamethrower to light them on fire. If done successfully, the target starts burning. The piercing is very nice to snipe people, and it does good damage, and burning is a nice status effect to inflict. Burning Cloud is his second ability, and it's also very solid. It hits every enemy on the field with fire damage and shreds some armor. It doesn't inflict burning, but it's good for forcing people out of combat and is his go-to move in large fights. Curse is his third ability, and I would be as bold to call it the second or third best buddy ability in the game. It targets a single enemy with shot damage and hits 6 times. The craziest part is that this ability ignores all armor an enemy has. If you go all in on boosting his ability damage and lower enemy defense, he becomes the second best boss killer in the game and has the possibility to hit a weakness for more damage. Giving Cartman a speed potion makes him unstoppable, as with max PP, he can do Curse twice before needing to recover. As you might have seen in the footage, Cartman is the definition of the glass cannon. He gets his HP annihilated by anything and everything. He needs to kill things in less than 3 rounds at all times because he just can't stay up in a fight. Gluttony does offset some of this as he's easy to heal but needs to be babied at all times. He also has the most PP of any party member, having a max of 32. His staff is also very whatever. It's only useful for shredding shields as it has 5 hits, while most shields also have 5 hits to break, but other than that, it's very, very bad. Overall, Cartman is very fun and devastating when used right. Give this guy a speed potion, buffs, and let him go wild with Curse. A tier. Kyle Broflovski. Kyle is the leader of the elves and the druid of the game. He specializes in shitting out the best damage in the game for literally no reason. He's the most infamous buddy in the game, and for good reason. His quick action is Rally, which is the best quick action in the game. He gives himself and the new kid 1 stack of ability up and attack up, literally for free, no strings attached. Why he can buff his ability damage when he already has the best ability damage in the game, I couldn't tell you. Summon Elemental is his first ability and is the best buddy ability in the game without a doubt. He summons Ike to kick the baby. If successful, it easily does 10k plus damage for literally no reason and applies 1 stack of bleeding. This is his bread and butter and the button he presses most of the time. It's the best single target attack in the game, and if given buffs and a speed potion, it easily lets him 2-shot most bosses in the game. And since it's his first ability, it only costs 8 PP. Meanwhile, the other best boss killer in the game costs 16 PP. Talk about inequality. Windstorm is the ability everyone forgets about. He targets all enemies in a row and applies attack down. It's good for breaking shields, but besides that, you and I know you're never clicking this button. Rain of Arrows is his third ability and is the best buddy ability that targets the entire field. He summons his elf army to rain arrows upon every enemy. It's notable for being the hardest ability in the game to use, as you have 1 second to react to a quicktime event before you fail. But when used successfully, it hits every enemy twice for big damage and applies 3 stacks of bleed. If the arrows themselves don't clear the fight, the bleed will finish up anyone who lives. Kyle's golf club is imbued with kosher damage, so he does extra damage to zombies, but that's the only notable thing about it. He has above average PP and HP, but he doesn't hog any resources because he just kills everything and ends the fight before he needs to use anything. The most you ever give him, really, is a speed potion. Overall, using Kyle is just playing the game on super easy mode. Give him a speed potion and let Summon Elemental play the game for you. K tier. And that was it. This is the entire tier list. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I love South Park, and especially this game. It was fun to grind it out for a few days and learn as much as I can. If you liked the video and want to see more of my stuff, please like and subscribe. It means a lot and it's very appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.